Cafe Anyway.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
FF episode 2085, I'm your host, Mike Matthews. This show is about, well, me.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
My name is Mike, and it's a podcast that comes to you daily, and I always sing at the beginning, and I'm going to sing the song because I am winning, and I love singing to you because you look so sad, you look so blue. Cheer up, Alfie, things are going to be fine, because
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Mike is here. He's on the case. He's got his
Mike's
headphones on.
Daily
He's got his
Podcast.
little YouTube channel thing.
Yeah!
He's going to videotape a little something for you right here, right now, from Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth, Cafe Anyway. If you're looking at the video on YouTube, you're like, where are all the people, Mike, that I usually hear in the background? Well, they're here. You just can't see them. They're around in the zone. Hey, I should probably thank the little Chihuahua artist guy who does the thing. I forget his name. Let's see. I have it written down behind this. Rorike is his name. Rorike. He's passed away, but he had these cute little Chihuahuas that he had in Carmel at this little place. So if you want to see those little doggies, they're somewhere in the picture of the video at MikesDailyPodcast.com, or go to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/MikesDailyPodcast, and you'll see the wonderful doggies. I gotta try and pet this, kind of petting the dog. And there's also a cat over here, and he's happy. I'd like to say a quick little video shout out to the cat spirit world. Gato, a cat that lived up the street from me, recently disappeared, and it doesn't look good. He may be gone for good. So,
and here's today's podcast picture.
Peace, Gato. I'm pouring my strange lemonade-looking drink, sort of on the floor. Not really. Uh-oh. But there we go. I should have a little pouring sound effect there. If I remember, I'll put it there. If not, never mind, you didn't hear it. Okay, I didn't mention it. Sidewalk Prophets. What are the Sidewalk Prophets? Prophet. Phase 1, clicked underpants. Phase 2, Phase 3, Prophet. And Basil. Basil's so happy. Why is he so happy today? It's hot. Oh, that's right. He got some delicious mackerel today. We gave him a little bit of mackerel. Holy mackerel, he loves mackerel. So that made him happy, and he eats it with gusto and verve. And Viv. He loves it. So, let me tell you, today, I spoke with someone who's had to deal with dealing with the coronavirus, the COVID-19 world, where everyone gets laid off. And this guy was in radio. He had been in radio. He wants to get back into radio. Mike Pompeo says the U.S. is looking at banning TikTok and other Chinese social media apps. What? Yes, TikTok, which I have not gotten into because there's a threshold that I cannot go beyond when it comes to picking up new things and new social media stuff. I was able to do Instagram. I tried Snapchat, could not do it. I said, I do not see how this is easy for me to use. No, if you're not going to be friendly for a senile old man like me, I'm not going to use you. Goodbye. Goodbye, sir. Good day. And TikTok. Washington's top diplomat added that people should only download the app if you want your privacy taken away. Is that it? Well, and I noticed that if you I can't find a direct quote, but that's sort of like what he was saying. Here's the thing is I had a friend, actually a roommate. He was a friend and a roommate. He was a roommate first, then we became friends because he was such a cool roommate. And Basil enjoyed him. And he was originally from Hong Kong, and he ended up moving to China for a while after he had lived with me for about 2.5 years. And when he left, he said, hey, if you want to keep in touch with me, you have to download the WeChat app. That's Tencent owns that. China company. My friend, do not ever download that app. My phone started acting weird as soon as I downloaded that. It took up memory constantly, and I don't know where it was taking up memory because I kept trying my best to delete memory out of my phone, but I could never add any new apps. I could never, my photo storage space would get used up constantly. It was terrible. It basically ruined the phone. Never download those Chinese apps. Sorry, China. Here's another interesting thing about China. Their army, they're not going to accept anybody who has had the coronavirus. Apparently, it damages lungs to such an extent that the Chinese army doesn't want you. Chinese military doesn't want you. Your lungs have been ruined because of coronavirus. To which I say, how many people in the U.S. smoke pot and ruin their lungs that way? But I guess they're in the military. I don't know. Cafe, I don't know. It's cafe anyway, actually. Hey, Sidewalk Prophets. Way back in the day, there was a band called the Manic Street Preachers that I loved. Now there's a band called the Sidewalk Prophets, and actually, Sidewalk Prophets is a Christian band. And I actually saw them. They were doing a live stream today. And the lead singer is on the heavy side and has so much charisma, you can't even believe it. You just have to watch him. And he's just exploding with positivity. And, you know, he's a Christian artist. Generally, they do have that positivity thing going. As we go outside a cafe anyway, we're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley, Mont. Oh, no, we're not in Podcastro Valley, Mont. We'll be there tomorrow. But, you know, there are Christians that are, you know, filled with God's light, Jesus' light. And this guy's got that, got loads of that. It was interesting watching them. Anyway, they were broadcasting live from the Ryman Auditorium. They did a live stream. And what was interesting was they turned the stage around. I've been to the Ryman. And what they did was they turned the band around so that what would be the seats, what the audience, the balcony and all that was behind the band instead of because there's nobody there. So they just said, let's flip it around. And they were performing in front of this big empty room. But the room is so fascinating because the Ryman Auditorium was a church at one time. So it's got big stained glass windows. It's in Nashville, Tennessee, if you've never been. It's an amazing place. I saw the late, great, living on Tulsa time. Living on Tulsa time. I'm gonna back right to it, but was it Don Williams? Is that who sang that? Tulsa Time. He also had but I believe in love. I believe in babies. I believe in Marvin. And I believe in you. I don't believe that I do believe that God is love. He's down below and he's up above. He's watching people everywhere. Don Williams? No? No one? If you are ever in a bad mood, my friend, listen to a Don Williams record. You will not... Your bad mood, your bad anxiety, quarantine, fatigue will vanish. You will not care anymore. Your life will be better. Also, listen to the Dixie Chicks. The Chicks. Listen to their song Goodbye Earl. That always cheers me up too. I believe in love. Believe in you. That's what it is. Let's see. I don't believe in superstars, organic food, and foreign cars. I don't believe the price of gold. Interesting. the certainty of growing old. That right is wrong and left is... That right is right and left is wrong. That north and south can't get along. That east is west and west is east. And being first... Oh, no, wait. East is east and west is west. And being first is always best. Wow, that goes to Talladega Nights, doesn't it? If you ain't first, you're last. Dang, Don Williams, so political there. When did that song? That was the late 70s, wasn't it? So, the release year was not 1997. That is wrong. That's a reissue. How dare you spread lies, Internet? Let's see. Well, how come the Wikipedia gets buried now? You can't find it anywhere. When I go to search, it for some reason Wikipedia, I have to really beg for it. 80. Wow, no kidding. Came out in August of 1980. It's a song from the 80s. I Heart the 80s. A song that was the 11th number one. It went to number one, that's right, on the Billboard country charts. That's right. In 1980, I was listening to a lot of country. It was the year of the whole, what do you call it? Urban cowboy thing. Which I have never watched that, which I should have. Alabama. That was a big group back then. With I'm guilty of loving the first degree. Sorry for my singing. I had a lot of singing today. But what I wanted to really talk about today was how we adapt to things like this. Some of us can adapt to being in quarantine. Maybe we get that quarantine 15. Or maybe you are dealing with quarantine fatigue. So listen to Don Williams. He'll cheer you up. Hey, and I also thought about how we adapt to things. And sometimes you have to sit there and go and look at the bright side. I know that's so cliche. And make the lemons into lemonade. But there are sometimes I realize that I'm adapting to something. When in my situation that I have adapted to, I start saying things like, I don't miss that. Here's one of the things I don't miss, and I think I mentioned it before on this show. I don't miss being in quarantine and working from home. What I don't miss is the constant interruptions I would get at work. People asking me stupid questions. For some reason, everybody thought I was an engineer, and they would ask me engineering questions that I had no clue about. I don't know how many times I had to say that's not in my wheelhouse. Even though I don't really understand what that expression is. I've never been in a wheelhouse. I don't know what a wheelhouse is. It's time for the wheelhouse dance. Everybody gonna do the wheelhouse dance. That's not a Don Williams song, but I think I'll write that someday in the honor of the late, great Don Williams. The Gray Fox is what he was known as. And I saw him at the Ryman Auditorium. That's what all that was about. Anyway, what I don't miss that. When I start saying I don't miss that, that's when I know I'm starting to adapt. For example, when I moved from Alabama back to California, actually when I moved from California to Alabama, right around that time there were some horrific fires that were happening. This was in 2007. And I said to myself, I don't miss that. And then I was realizing, hey, I'm adapting to Alabama. And then when I left Alabama and got to California, I would think about how Alabama really has no regulation, and you see a lot of really bad, poorly maintained eyesores on the side of the road. You'll be driving along, and there's beautiful grass, and all of a sudden you'll see a house. One time I saw a dead dog on the side of the road in front of a house. I know how traumatic. We were just mentioning the late, great Gato, the dead cat. Or maybe he's alive. I don't know. We don't know where Gato is. We hope and wish him, peace. But, I mean, yeah, you would see some horrendous places in Alabama. Just like nobody cared. And I said to myself, I don't miss that. But then you see that in California, too. So I don't know what I was trying to adapt back to California. And someday when I leave California, I'll think about the horrible traffic that's starting to emerge again. even though the coronavirus is not over and it's still spiking and you don't want to catch it because you don't want your lungs ruined and you don't want to pass it along to other people who could die from it. A friend of mine who is a little bit older, her granddaughter actually has the coronavirus now. And she said to her, Grandma, you don't want to catch this. Anybody 53 and over would not be able to survive this, is what the granddaughter said. She said it was that bad. And she lived in Modesto, and she had to drive all the way to Santa Rosa to get tested to see if, in fact, she did have the coronavirus, because nobody in Modesto would test her because she did not know exactly where she was exposed. She couldn't answer that question. She didn't know. I don't know, she said. I'm like, I got it somewhere, but obviously, but, well, who gave it to you? I don't know. What's that about? Are we that, I mean, if you're sick, someone should tend to you. This is ridiculous. I don't know if it's because of the contact tracing. They don't want to accept people unless we absolutely know where it came from. That's crazy. Anyway, I heard that story yesterday. And then we adapt to things, and then we miss it. We miss certain things. Like, I've adapted to California, but sometimes I miss in Alabama how cheap things were, inexpensive. Gas was so inexpensive. People were friendly. Everything was green. I miss that. It's probably less coronavirus in Alabama, although they might have had a spike too. I know Florida's got the spike thing happening. So just be careful, y'all. Ooh, I did a little Alabama thing there. Be careful, y'all. And remember, you know, when you wear that mask, it's not really protecting you from the coronavirus. It's protecting other people from you in case you may have gotten it. Because we don't know. It's asymptomatic. It's that whole thing, you know. So, but if we all wear masks, then it's a good thing. It cuts down on the coronavirus. Look who's outside a cafe anyway, located somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth. And by the way, the podcast picture today is of my lovely lady friend and I. We went on a nice long hike, and it was so hot, and I got home, and I mentioned it last podcast. I wanted to just fall asleep. Did I say a podcast? A bogcast? I get bogged down a little bit sometimes on this podcast. It's true. But I was so tired, I wanted to just fall right asleep. I think I had a little heat exhaustion going on. So be careful out there in the heat, everybody. Hey, look who's here.
Hello, Mike Matthews. It's Chely Shoehart, gift shop supervisor. I know it cools me down, and that's snow globes.
It cools you down?
Yes, Mike Matthews, because when I see the snow globe, it makes me think it's cool outside, when it's not.
Oh, that's true. Look who else is here. Hello, Mike. This is Floyd the Floorman. And this is John Deere, the engineer. Mike, don't you have to be at your job tomorrow morning at like 5 or something? Mm-mm. Oh, yeah. All right, I should wrap up this podcast. That probably means you'll be hearing another podcast tomorrow morning sometime. Okay, well, we'll find out. Next show, it'll be the wonderful Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, and the Brewmaster. Thank you for listening. Stay safe. I forgot something? 336MM Daily if you'd like to comment on anything we covered today. 3 + 3 = 6. MM as in Mike Matthews, Daily as in what this podcast has been for a long time.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MikesDailyPodcast.com. Email Mike now at MikesDailyPodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!